Hello there. I'm glad you can join me today, and that we can share some time in our trip into fire manipulation and fire play. Today, I'm going to go over some of the materials to make fire wands and torches. I've had a few people ask me about this. I still don't understand why. Again, don't do what the ogre does, ever. It always ends badly. But because they've asked, I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the materials that can be used to make fire wands and torches. I've used most of these over the years, some of which are fine to begin with if you're not sure if you want to delve into fire play and just want to taste it out and make something real quick out of household materials. Others require you to order, all kinds of materials and go shopping at hardware stores and fabric stores and all kinds of different places. So let's get started. The basic needs for a torch or fire wand are a wick, a handle, and something to attach the wick to the handle. One of the most important things you're going to come across is every time you take a fire wand out to play, torch out to play, you need to make sure it's attached securely. So some of these methods aren't the best for that, but they will work in a pinch, and they'll work for a couple of burns, and then you'll need to fix them, replace them. So let's start with the wick. Generally, you want something that will not melt. Excuse me. And you will want something that will kind of hold up to heat for a little bit. So there's a few main materials that are used. First of all, cotton. Cotton's fine. Cotton's been used for a long time. The two main ways I've seen people use cotton are as gauze. This is cotton gauze. This is 4-inch cotton gauze that you would use to dress a wound. You can use all 4 inches to make a torch. You can see that you can make quite a large torch out of this. Generally, especially if I'm doing fire eating, I'm going to fold this in half to do a 2-inch torch. Second type of material that's fine. This is an old t-shirt of mine. It's cotton. Now, I'd prefer white cotton because it's easier to see, the damage that's been done to it from previous burns. But cotton in general, 100% pure cotton, is fine. I don't have a white t-shirt handy to show. This is one I've actually cut up for rags already, but it's a white t-shirt. I generally don't use things that have been dyed, and I wouldn't. Again, this is just an example. So those are kind of the around-the-house type items that you might find for a torch. Anything beyond that, you're going to at least possibly have to make a trip to the hardware store. The next thing is carbon felt, also called plumber's blanket sometimes. It goes by a lot of different names. This is carbon felt. This is a piece of 1/8-inch, roughly, carbon felt. Carbon felt is nice because it comes in large sheets like this, and you can cut it down to the size you want. If you want to make, for some reason, a 3/4 inch wick, okay, just cut it down. Cut it down to 3/4 inch by whatever length you need to get it to wrap around to make the thickness you need. So that's carbon felt. And the final thing, the thing you see most of the professionals use, is Kevlar. I have a lot of Kevlar here. This is 1/16 inch by 2 inch. I like 2-inch Kevlar. A lot of people like 1.5 inch. That's fine. This is 1/8 inch by 2 inch. The problem with Kevlar is if I do want to make a 1.5 inch torch, I'd have to cut long ways, and it really doesn't, it's not designed to be cut that way. I could do a 1 inch by folding this over. I probably wouldn't do it with the 1/8 inch because that gets really difficult to wrap. But with the 16th inch, I can fold it over and do a 1-inch torch pretty easily. So those are your wick materials. And you can get Kevlar in, this is 1/4 inch, I believe, or 1/2 inch, by 1/8 inch. So you can get Kevlar in very tiny amounts, or very tiny widths, whatever you need. But again, you have that issue of whatever width you get, that's the width you have to work with. And you can't make a 7/8 inch torch like you could with the carbon felt. All of these are fine. I like Kevlar and carbon felt for most of my stuff. I rarely use cotton anymore, but cotton is 100% okay if that's what you have. Okay. Next, let's talk about handles. Right? We need a wick. We need a wick. We need a handle, and then we need a way to attach them. Handles, you can use pretty much anything, as long as it will not melt on you, will not catch fire on its own, and will not, and will hold up to the heat. If you are just starting out, you want to do a household item type thing, a coat hanger is okay. Not my favorite because it does conduct heat. It may be coated. This particular one I wouldn't use because there's a coating on it. Sometimes you'll have the, sorry, should have done this ahead of time. I'm aware of that. I am a horrible person. Or ogre. Well, I can't grab it. Sometimes you'll get the white painted ones. That's fine. If I get those, I will usually strip the paint off. So, coat hangers are fine as a starter, but I wouldn't make them personally my regular. But if that's what you want and that's what works for you, then that's what you need to do, as long as you are safe about it. As long as you are sure that you won't get burned and that the wick won't come off, and even more important, you won't hurt somebody else or set your surroundings on fire. Okay? Probably the most popular thing for fire wands, as far as material for handles, are skewers. This is, this one has a silicone handle on it. This one here has the loop style handle. These are nice because you can spin it around by holding the loop. These are designed to be kept in heat. These are designed to hold things away from your body that are hot. Kind of what the handle is for. So these are great. You can go fairly inexpensive and get dollar store skewers. They're a little thinner, and they'll flex a whole lot more than these will. These don't flex much, and that's nice, because you're not getting the fire closer to you when you flex. I mean, this one barely flexes at all. It's shorter, though, so fire's going to be closer to you. Sorry, I'm still not used to making videos, and no one wants to see me, so these are going to be horrible, I know. Maybe I'll get better at time. So, skewers. I use these a lot. I'll buy them by the dozen, basically, on Amazon. Or I will see them. I have some over here that I grabbed at Target because they were on sale, and it was like $3 for a 4-pack, and that was great, and they're great. So skewers are great. You can step it up from there with going to hardware stores and getting metal rods and metal tubes. This is a steel metal rod. I believe it's 1/4 inch. Let's take a look. Nope, it's 1/8 inch, I'm sorry. So, this is a 3-foot rod. I'm having trouble finding 4-foot rods. This is a 3-foot rod. I would cut this in half and make two identical torches out of this rod. This is steel. Steel rods are heavier. They bend a little bit, not much. They have a nice weight to them. As long as you go with the thinner diameters. If you want something thicker, if you're going into really starting to do more manipulation, doing all the things that are going to cause you damage to your body for a lifetime, then you can start going with tubes. This is an aluminum round tube, 1/2 inch by 1/16 inch. That's the, let's see, that's the thickness of the wall. 1/2 inch is the total diameter by 3 foot. I'll make 2 torches out of this. They'll be hollow torches. You can also do a short staff or just a, a fire stick type thing or fire baton type thing out of something like this. Most of my newer torches that I'm using for fire eating and fire breathing are made out of these. If I'm doing just fleshing, or if I'm doing fleshing involving somebody else especially, I'm generally using these or the skewers. The skewers are great. That's what I've been using for years and years for fleshing, fire play. So feel free to use those. All right, so we've got our wick material. We have our handle. Now we need a way to connect them. Before I forget, because I don't use it, but I've seen it used, and I'll throw it out there. I've seen people use wood dowels wrapped in aluminum foil for pretty good results. I've never tried it, so I can't say yes or no. Just saying it's a way to go. So, attachment methods. There are a number of ways to do it. There are some are better than others. Some will hold up longer. Some you've got to watch them the entire time. You may get one burn out of it, or one performance. And it's really up to you which way to go. I'm not going to say one way's right, one way's wrong. Not for me to say. I've tried a number of different ways that work. I've seen other people do things that I don't, and they work. So find what works for you. Again, as long as you're safe, as long as the wick is not coming off the handle in any way, shape, or form, as long as the wick is not so large that it's uncontrollable. You know, I joke about making these giant wicks, but really it becomes a hassle, and it becomes dangerous to work with. Maybe on a fire staff, a 4-inch, by 2-inch thick wick is fine, but not for fire breathing, not for fire, and especially not for fire play. Ways to attach. There's a lot of ways to attach. If you are doing something very simple with the cotton gauze that we talked about earlier, Elmer's glue, white glue, is a way to go. Again, this is if you want to do it at home. You're going to do it once and toss the wick, or toss the torch. This is fine. Or do one performance. Sometimes I'll use these if I'm traveling on a plane and I don't want to take my torches and all I'm doing is some fleshing and maybe some fire eating. I can stop at Target, Dollar Tree really, or whatever, and get the things to make this. I can use the coat hanger method or a skewer. But Elmer's glue, safe, non-toxic. Kids eat it all the time. The cool thing about Elmer's glue is it hardens with heat. It cures more with heat. So if you heat it up before you do your actual performance a couple times, it'll actually hold better. So in later videos I'll show how to make a couple of torches. So we'll talk about that. This is just kind of give you an idea of what to get. So that works. One way to hold the wick onto the torch or to the handle, but not to secure it closed, is cloth tape. This is hockey tape. I originally got this to make bullwhips, paracord bullwhips. It's great for adding some stiffness to the bullwhips. It doesn't stretch like electrical tape and things like that. So if you are attaching your wick to a handle, this will work. This works well. It's not the only thing you're going to use, but it's great for attaching. We'll go over attaching in another video at some point, I'm sure. But there's that. Rivets. If you're going with a larger width handle, maybe a staff or a larger tube. Rivets will hold in place. You'll need to drill out the tube first, but they will work to hold the Kevlar in place. I'd actually use a probably a washer over this. But to get it started, rivets work. Also screws. All the screws are outside. I didn't go and get any. But rivets and screws are fine. And my primary method is thread. Unless you're using glue, thread's the way to hold everything together, and thread is the primary way. I've got two different types of thread here. This isn't my main one. This is what I can do if I'm, again, traveling, buying the stuff at a hardware store and a fabric store. The important thing with thread, I'm going to, right there, 100% cotton. Do not use nylon thread. Do not use polyester thread. Do not use any type of synthetic thread. They will melt. Your wick will fall off and hit you in the face, setting your face on fire. This is bad. Very bad. 100% cotton works well. I've had torches last about a year with just cotton thread and the carbon felt. You don't want to use this thickness. You want to actually quadruple it up with cotton. Finally, Kevlar thread. Just like the Kevlar we talked about earlier, Kevlar thread is what a lot of the professionals use. If you buy from a lot of the really reputable manufacturers of torches, they're using Kevlar thread. Dark Monk, Home of Poi, Trick Concepts. The same places that you buy your Kevlar, the same place I can go to buy this giant roll of Kevlar is where I buy the thread. And they use these same materials to make the torches they sell. And in another video, I'll show you some of the torches I bought from a couple of them. If you're using thread please make sure to get needles. If you're doing Kevlar, a normal tiny needle is not going to work. You need larger needles. Either leather style needles or heavy quilting needles or upholstery needles. Like that. Sometimes, and a lot of people will use, I see this a lot, curved needles. Actually, most of the places where you buy your Kevlar are going to be selling curved needles because it'll let you go up underneath the fold so that the stitching is not visible. A lot of people, that's an important thing, that the stitching isn't visible. I have some of my stitching visible just to give me I'll show you this later, just to give me an idea. It's not the stitching that's finally holding everything together. It's kind of an extra stitch I put on to double check how it's holding up. It's just a gauge to, kind of another safety measure to make sure it doesn't fall apart. One other thing you're going to need before you get started is a cutting utensil. Especially if you're using carbon felt. Scissors work fine. Rotary cutters, great. I mean, even your box knives are okay. Oh, so this was our first little trip into getting ready for fire. This is just to give you an idea of what you're looking for, what to get. In later videos, I'll show you how I use these different things. But this is a start. Hope this helps. Hope you'll get something out of these once I'm done. I know this one probably not, but hey, we're all learning here, right? We're all moving down the road on a journey to the wonderful land of fire. And fire's great if done safely. Well, done safer. It's never safe. All right, with that, I'm going to log off now. I will be doing another video, hopefully within the next week, where I will actually make at least one, if not two torches. I'll probably do one on safety with torches. All right, thank you. Bye. Again, don't do what the ogre does, ever.